Hi, this is Jim Jordan with the Citizens Legal Education and another update. I've been giving an update for a while. First of all, the topic of this little video, the title is The Duty of the People to Chain the Government to the Constitution. So this is a famous phrase from Thomas Jefferson saying when he was asked, what is the role of the people in our new system of government, constitutional republic? And it was really, we are the last stand. It is our responsibility to make sure government follows their oath to uphold the Constitution. And in the last months, 6 months or so, there have been pretty much nonstop, from my perspective, violations of the constitutional restrictions placed on government. The latest update, let me give you a little update just on some things of the world and the COVID-19 world, I'll tie this all in together, is the CDC revealed that only 6% of the total deaths that they were listing as COVID-19 caused by COVID-19 are caused exclusively by COVID-19. In other words, 94% of the deaths listed as COVID-19 had an average of 2.6 comorbidities. Comorbidities are serious health conditions that in and of themselves can cause death. Heart disease, diabetes, cancer, hypertension, autoimmune conditions, you name it. And then, of course, there are many other cases of people who they weren't exactly comorbidities. They were auto accidents or serious accidents where a person was killed, but they tested positive for COVID-19. And those too were listed as COVID-19 deaths. So that revelation should have been earth-shaking to people, and for some it was, and for many it wasn't. There was a lot of spinning going on after that by mainstream media and people that were sort of in alignment with the draconian lockdown and measures, preventive measures, mandates, and potential vaccines, saying that these people, not just 6%, but the other 94%, would not have died but for COVID-19. Not offering any proof of that, of course, but saying that. So the big news actually is this, that I've been involved with a research paper that's coming out that documents that the CDC has violated federal law in changing the rules they promulgated for determining cause of death in March of 2020. And they changed it in violation of federal law. They did not give proper notice to the public. They bypassed federal oversight committees and organizations. And they basically set up a new standard solely for COVID-19, independent of all other health conditions, all other illnesses, where COVID-19 would be coded as the cause of death if it was even suspected that it contributed, and it would be identified as the cause of death. So if that is not enough to wake people up to the fraud of the numbers that we're being told, the lethality of this virus, or the lack of lethality, then nothing will. So that's the update on what's so, and the research paper is going to be used potentially in legal action against the CDC. We shall see. But if for nothing else, it reveals essentially that the CDC has violated the law, and they made the rules for determining cause of death for COVID-19 extremely easy to meet, different than it had for 17 years. They had a different set of rules for 17 years, in which COVID-19 would have been considered not a cause of death in 94% of those cases that we have determined as cause of death. The CDC has determined as cause of death. So that's what's so. Now, getting back to the topic, what is the role of the people in a republic? The role of the people is to chain the government to the Constitution. We are looking outside of ourselves. Some people looking to the President of the United States, some people looking to the judicial system or the legislature to check governors or executives or county officials that are basically shutting down society, forcing people to wear masks, forcing children to wear masks in school and social distancing. Endless interventions in our personal choices that affect our health, economics, and well-being. And we're looking outside of ourselves. And in reality, we have to look into ourselves. We, the people, created this government. The state government, the federal government, we created them. We are responsible for holding accountable these elected officials. There's many ways to do that. I've discussed that in some of my talks on Facebook Live. And there are other ways that I'm going to be talking about in the weeks and months ahead. But the first step is to realize that it's our responsibility to do that. And I know more and more people are coming on board with this. They're speaking out. So the first thing is to speak up and not be silent. And for so many people out there, I know for a fact, they are just accommodating the regulations. They know for a fact that they do nothing. I go to my dentist office, I go around the shops, and I see people saying, I don't believe in this. I don't believe in this. I have to do this, otherwise I'll lose my job. My business is shut down. This is not consent of the governed. Consent of the governed is that people choose something. If our elected officials in the state of Oregon, our representatives, our state legislature, were to actually vote on these rules and regulations and mandates, that'd be one thing, but they have not. They've abdicated their authority and their responsibility to be the legislative branch of government to the executive branch. So in an actual constitutional republic, we have a separation of powers. We don't have an executive branch that legislates and enforces law. No. And now what we have is federal agencies like in the government that actually have legislative, executive, and judicial power to actually determine whether they themselves have violated their rules and regulations. That's not the separation of powers. So we have to understand, what is our system of government? Our system of government is based on the basic concept of consent of the governed. We should not be ruled by laws that we have not consented to. And consent is not the same as compliance or following the rules because we're afraid we'll be fined. That's not consent. It's because we want them, actively want them. We want these rules. Now, you tell me how many people out there actually want to have these businesses shut down when there's a 0.04% chance, basically, of death. Or 0.4% chance, even using the government statistics as if they were valid. And now the research is coming out, it's probably not valid. It's probably 1/10 of that cause of death. Right? So how many people would actually want to shut down, close down businesses, do social distancing, wearing face masks, mandating vaccines as they're going to be doing? Do you want that, or will you just comply with it? If you'll just comply with it, then that's not being a citizen. That is saying, we're not worthy of self-government, self-governance. So each person, it's their responsibility to look into their heart and soul. Is this something they actually want to do? In which case, absolutely go ahead and do it, if that's what you want. Recently, someone I know very close to me, an elderly woman who had been using a medical exemption for wearing a mask to go shopping. Been doing that fine. It was accepted. You know, she would notify the stores that she can't wear a mask because of health reasons, and she could go shop. That was no problem. She went to a store recently, a grocery store, was doing her shopping without her mask on, about to check out. All of a sudden, someone comes up, and one of the assistant managers says, "You have to leave, or you have to wear a mask." She says, "I can't do that. I have a health exemption." And he said, "We have to leave anyway." And then an official manager came down and basically kicked her out. Didn't let her even pay for her groceries. Didn't offer her another option, which by law they have to do. They have to offer another option to shop. They could have done the shopping for her, but they didn't do that. So what does that tell you? That doesn't tell me that they're following the rules because they believe this is good. That tells me they're scared. They are so scared of one elderly woman walking around without a mask that they're going to get fined or something by our governor. That they're going to treat that person like they're not important, that they don't count. Their health concerns don't matter. That's what we've come to, in my state of Oregon at least. In other states, it's the same or worse. In some states, it's better. So that was very sad to me, extremely sad. And there's going to be a complaint filed with the American Disabilities Act about this incident, but nonetheless, it reflects a submissiveness. I don't take this as these people, the managers at these stores, really believe these policies are good. Very few people actually believe they're good, from my view. They're doing it because they were told to do it, and they would be punished if they didn't. That is not consent of the governed. That is a lack of courage on their part, but it's not a consent of the governed. And so we have here, in my views, we don't have a crisis of a health crisis. Statistics show that. We have a crisis of courage. We have a crisis of people with integrity, with backbone, And in my state of Oregon, we couldn't even get the governor to be recalled. There was some mischievousness on the governor's part, I understand, to make it more difficult, but we still couldn't get above the hump to get the governor recalled. We don't have enough people to stand up and say enough of an imperial executive branch. We have a system of government that has three separate branches: the executive branch to enforce laws, the legislative branch to pass laws. That's their job. This is not a state of emergency. It never was, and it certainly isn't 6 months later. And we have a judicial branch to judge whether laws have been broken. In our case in Oregon, our Supreme Court doesn't have the spine to make a ruling that's obvious on its face. The executive branch has exceeded her 28 days, constitutional authorized 28 days of executive orders, and the legislative branch has to step in. So if we have a judicial branch that won't operate, a legislative branch that won't operate, an executive branch which will operate, which will pass laws, executive orders equivalent as the effective law, enforce laws, fine people, then we have trouble. We do not have a consent of the governed in the state of Oregon, nor in most states, I would say at this point. So this video is basically to say it's just to get this off my chest, that we, the people, have to take responsibility to speak out. We had a chance in Oregon to do something, to take a stand, and we didn't get enough people to do it. I'm sad about that. I'm not certain what the next steps are, but I'm certain that we have to look inside our hearts and souls and ask ourselves, do we actually want these rules and regulations? And do you want a vaccine coming now that's going to be mandated, very likely going to be attempted to be mandated on the population, for something that has the death rate the equivalent of a flu season? That's the facts. That's what the CDC said. That's their statistics. And if you want that, then you said goodbye to America. That's not the country that I was raised in. That's not the country that I took an oath to uphold its constitution for when I became a lawyer in 1987. So for today, that's my message. It is our duty to change the government to the Constitution. And there are many ways to do that. And I'll be making more videos in the future to help support people who want to do that and take their natural place in the order of things, which is as the sovereign beings that we are, who have government work for us and we don't work for them. And if we choose this is the correct thing and minority rights are protected still, that's different. But I don't think we're choosing this. I don't feel that at all. So it's Jim Jordan for Citizens Legal Education today, wishing you a great day.